The United States intelligence community is a group of separate United States government intelligence agencies and subordinate organizations that work separately and together to conduct intelligence activities to support the foreign policy and national security of the United States. Member organizations of the IC include intelligence agencies, military intelligence, and civilian intelligence and analysis officers within federal executive departments. The IC is overseen by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, which itself is headed by the Director of National Intelligence. The DNI reports directly to the President of the United States. Among their varied responsibilities, the members of the community collect and produce foreign and domestic intelligence, contribute to military planning, and perform espionage. The IC was established by Executive Order 12333, signed on December 4, 1981, by President Ronald Reagan. The Washington Post reported in 2010 that there were 1,271 government organizations and 1,931 private companies in 10,000 locations in the United States that were working on counterterrorism, homeland security, and intelligence, and that the intelligence community as a whole would include 854,000 people holding top-secret clearances. According to a 2008 study by the ODNI, private contractors make up 29% of the workforce in the U.S. intelligence community and account for 49% of their personnel budgets. The term intelligence community was first used during LTG Walter Budell Smith's tenure as Director of Central Intelligence. Intelligence is information that agencies collect, analyze, and distribute in response to government leaders' questions and requirements. Intelligence is a broad term that may entail, for example, collection, analysis, and production of sensitive information to support national security leaders, including policymakers, military commanders, and members of Congress, safeguarding these processes and this information through counterintelligence activities. Execution of covert operations approved by the President. The IC strives to provide valuable insight on important issues by gathering raw intelligence, analyzing that data in context, and producing timely and relevant products for customers at all levels of national security, from the warfighter on the ground to the President in Washington. Executive Order 12333 charged the IC with 6 primary objectives. The IC is headed by the Director of National Intelligence, whose statutory leadership is exercised through the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. The other 17 members of the IC are. The IC performs under 2 separate programs, since the definitions of the NIP and MIP overlap when they address military intelligence. Assignment of intelligence activities to the NIP and MIP sometimes proves problematic. The overall organization of the IC is primarily governed by the National Security Act of 1947 and Executive Order 12333. The statutory organizational relationships were substantially revised with the 2004 Intelligence Reform and Terrorism Prevention Act amendments to the 1947 National Security Act. Though the IC characterizes itself as a federation of its member elements, its overall structure is better characterized as a confederation due to its lack of a well-defined, unified leadership and governance structure. Prior to 2004, the Director of Central Intelligence was the head of the IC, in addition to being the Director of the KIA. A major criticism of this arrangement was that the DCI had little or no actual authority over the budgetary authorities of the other IC agencies and therefore had limited influence over their operations. Following the passage of IRTPA in 2004, the head of the IC is the Director of National Intelligence. The DNI exerts leadership of the IC primarily through statutory authorities under which he or she. Despite these responsibilities, the DNI has no authority to direct and control any element of the IC except his own staff. The Office of the DNI. Nor does the DNI have the authority to hire or fire personnel in the IC except those on his or her own staff. The member elements in the executive branch are directed and controlled by their respective department heads. All cabinet-level officials reporting to the president. By law, only the director of the Central Intelligence Agency reports to the DNI. In light of major intelligence failures in recent years that called into question how well intelligence community ensures U.S. national security, particularly those identified by the 9/11 Commission and the WMD Commission, the authorities and powers of the DNI and the overall organizational structure of the IC have become subject of intense debate in the United States. Previously, interagency cooperation and the flow of information among the member agencies was hindered by policies that sought to limit the pooling of information out of privacy and security concerns. Attempts to